Welcome. Welcome to worship with the First Parish in Lincoln. My name is Jenny Rankin and I'm the interim minister. It's good to be back with you. I'm grateful to the deacons for keeping worship going all summer. We are physically closed, spiritually open. We are a community church gathered in 1749 with roots in both the Unitarian, Universalist, and the Congregational traditions. In so-called normal times, you'll find us at our beautiful old sanctuary, right at the crossroads in the center of Lincoln, across from the library. But for now, we worship right here, Sunday after Sunday at 10 a.m. We know there are lots of options for online worship, and so we're so glad that you've chosen to be with us this morning. We are a 7-day-a-week church. We have great programs for kids and adults, and you can read all about them and learn about them and join them online at our website. So let's start this morning with a few announcements, and then we'll greet one another with a great big wave. I'm going to remind everyone to stay muted. It's important that we don't hear the background noise in your house. And please put your prayers in the chat box at the bottom of your screen, and I will read those during the prayer time. My last announcement is that I hope you'll consider joining me for coffee on Thursday morning. I meet with a group every Thursday at 10 a.m. We start with a poem that I choose, a reading, and then we have a check-in. And then we have a conversation that I guide, sort of hear where people are at, what they're thinking about, and what the greater world is going through. And we enjoy a conversation together for about an hour and close with a prayer. So consider coming for a cup of coffee.
Good morning, First Parish. This is Gina Halstead for the transition team. This year, we're excited to be asking you, who do we want to be? What does First Parish want to look like? And what do we want to declare our purpose to be as we move forward in our work and as we consider our next spiritual leader? And I have two things I want to ask you right now to start that journey. The first is, join us virtually on October 4th after the Sunday service as we discuss and start to map out what the journey for this year will look like. And also right now, we need your voice on our values. We need you to weigh in on our timeless and enduring guiding principles. The way you can weigh in is to click on the link that's in the transition team article in the September Parish News. The article that's in the latest news brief, we'll have it in upcoming news briefs, and I can put a link in the chat box. So this is kind of like get out and vote. Let's get your voice on our values.
And I'm Paula Waterman from the Deacons, and I invite you to join Jenny and Sarah and myself each Thursday at noon on Zoom as we continue our series of classes, Engaging Sacred Texts. This fall, we will be exploring the meaning and place of the divine feminine. You will find the link on our website, fplincoln.org, by scrolling down to Engaging Sacred Texts. And we hope to welcome many of you through the season.
And I'm Mary Gaylord, speaking on behalf of the Anti-Racist Task Force. We have started a new drive to help the Cambridge-based organization Solutions at Work meet the needs of people who are living on the streets and in shelters in Cambridge. They're working with a continuing cares program administered by the city of Cambridge. We can help by gathering up necessities like toothbrushes and toothpaste, personal hygiene supplies, portable snacks, even sleeping bags, bedding. One thing I want to add is bags, duffel bags, backpacks for people to carry things with. We can't handle used clothes right now. It's not just that we can't, Solutions can't handle them right now. So please hold those. But it's been very inspiring to see the way First Parish has come together as a community to step up in our 2 previous drives. And I know you're going to do it again. Collection bins on the porch of the parish house. Thank you so much.
And I'm Janet Boynton, also from the Anti-Racist Group. A blacklist typically describes people who are under suspicion, unacceptable, or should be censured. But the blacklist film that we'll be showing Thursday evening redefines the negative taint that's applied to the word Black into a term of distinction. Through a series of living portraits of prominent Black Americans, such as Toni Morrison, Serena Williams, Susan Rice, Colin Powell, and even the comedian Chris Rock, we will learn about the struggles, the triumphs, and joys of Black life in this country. It's a really interesting and unique film, and I hope you all will come on Zoom, of course, to be shown this Thursday, September 17th at 7 p.m. And Sarah will post the Zoom link in Thursday morning's news brief. And while I'm here, I just also wanted to remind everyone that we'll be discussing our summer book selection, Between the World and Me, on Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock, September 27th. And you can check the anti-racism page on our website for details. Thank you.
And I'm Andy Clark, speaking for the Safe Congregations Committee, to note that although the parish house and the sanctuary remain closed for general use, we do have outdoor space for groups to use. One beside the sanctuary in those colorful Adirondack chairs, and one on the patio behind the Stearns room. So if you're interested in reserving the space, please contact the parish administrator, Sylvia Decow, and she'll reserve it for you and let you know about the restrictions. And then speaking on behalf of the deacons, I'm excited to announce that we're going to be having an in-person, outdoor, socially distanced service 2 weeks from today on Sunday, September 27th at 10 a.m. under the Pierce House tent. The attendance will be strictly limited to 40 people with advanced reservations, and a sign-up sheet will be posted online the morning of Monday, September 21st, around 9 a.m. The service will be streamed live on Zoom as well in order for everyone to be able to participate. Thanks.
Okay, thanks everybody. And now let's greet one another with a great big wave. And I'm gonna just scroll around and see who's here. So keep on waving. Hi, so good to see you. So very good. Welcome. So glad you're here. Let us now deepen into worship with our opening words.
We who long for return, who long for repair, gather again to mend the tender strands of connection between each other, the world, those parts of ourselves buried deep. We begin once more the work of welcome, of forgiveness, of renewing this weary, worn world. Come, friends, a new day, a new story awaits. Now we deepen into worship with our opening hymn, God of the earth, the sky, the sea.
In the love of truth and in the spirit of Jesus, we unite for the worship of God and the service of all.
Great job, Serena. Thank you, Heather and Thornton. That was great. If you were able to see that, you could see the beautiful words and decorations that Serena made for our covenant this morning. Thank you. So good morning, everybody. I'm Margaret Griffith, the Director of Religious Education. For anyone who's new out there who doesn't know me yet, it's just a matter of time. I hope to get to know you soon. And this is our Time for All Ages. It's a time when we take the morning's theme and we talk about it in a way that's accessible to everyone. And so we're thinking about rocks this morning because it's our In Gathering with Rocks service. And in the parish news, you may have seen, we are going to collect rocks, hopefully from everybody, and put them on the steps of our church as an outward symbol that we are all together. Our rocks will be close together when our bodies cannot be. And in this way, we'll symbolize our spiritual connection to one another. And it made me think of a poem that I love from Mary Oliver. I'm going to read it to you, and I want you to think about some of the questions that she asks. Do stones feel? Do they love their life? Or does their patience drown out everything else? When I walk on the beach, I gather a few white ones, a few dark ones, a few multicolored ones. Don't worry, I say, I'll bring you back. And I do. Is the tree as it rises delighted with its many branches, each one like a poem? Are the clouds glad to unburden their bundles of rain? Most of the world says, no, no, it's not possible. I refuse to think to such a conclusion. Too terrible it would be to be wrong. I like to think that rocks feel, and that trees are like poems with their branches, and that the rain is glad to fall where it's needed. So let me think. I had something in the Wonder Box today. Where did I put the Wonder Box this morning? Oh gosh, I moved up to my office. Where's the Wonder Box today? Serena, what are you doing with the Wonder Box? How did it get over there? What is in the Wonder Box this morning, my friend? What is that? Can you hold it a little closer to? Oh my goodness. That's beautiful. Can you tell me about that rock? Oh my goodness, it is.
I painted the rainbow, and then I thought about doing stripes, and so I did stripes,
Yeah.
and then I did cool triangles and stripes on the other side, and then
Yeah.
stripes on all the others.
Do you
And
know
on
what?
the side with these stripes, it has polka dots.
Oh, I like stripes and polka dots. Can you tell me, Serena, what about that rock said rainbow to you? Do you know?
I like rainbows.
You like rainbows. So it's almost as if you and the rock with your paint had a little conversation. Maybe rocks do feel. And I like to think that that rock is joyful to have your rainbow on it. So friends, I hope that you will find a rock. The rocks that I showed you are from our summer vacation. They were found on a beach, as it just so happens. Thank you, Mary Oliver. And we are, instead of placing them back, we're going to place them on the steps. If you are zooming in from a distance, or if you are concerned about placing your own rock on the steps of our church, please send me an email and a volunteer family will choose a rock for you and place it on the church for you. Nobody is too far, too distant, or too concerned about their health to be included in this. We will place a rock for you. And right now I'm going to type my email address into the chat so you can send me an email and we will make sure that there's a rock placed for you. Thank you, Serena.
Our first reading today is from Joshua chapter 4, verses 19 to 24. The people came up out of the Jordan River on the 10th day of the first month, and they camped in Gilgal on the east border of Jericho. Those 12 stones, which they had taken out of the Jordan River, Joshua set up in Gilgal. He said to the Israelites, "When your children ask their parents in time to come, 'What do these stones mean?' then you shall let your children know. Israel crossed over the Jordan here on dry ground. For God dried up the waters of the Jordan for you until you crossed over, as God did to the Red Sea, dried up the Red Sea for us until we crossed over, so that all the peoples of the earth shall know that the hand of the Holy One is mighty, and so that you may reverence your God forevermore." Here ends the lesson. It's been good for me to be away. I got a good rest, and it's good to be back amongst you. It was a summer of beauty, sunshine, and ocean waves and blue skies, but also, to be honest, always a drumbeat of anxiety with COVID, racial reckoning, and political divisions. It's good to be back, and I'm delighted to have Sarah with us in a new role this fall as our part-time ministerial intern. She will also continue as communications and adult programs coordinator. But many of us have already experienced her gifts in teaching and preaching and social justice. We are blessed to have her, and she'll be with us in that role for another 2 years. So this is called Ingathering Sunday. This year it's Stone Communion, and it's the time when we look forward after a summer break to seeing one another again. Some of you have told me this week that you're sad we can't be together, and I confess I'm sad as well. But we know it's the safe thing that we're doing, continuing to have worship online. At the same time, we can't deny the feelings of loss. It's a strange time that we're living through. No two ways about it. We're trying to figure out how to do church and be a community when there are so many ways that we can't be together. Last week, we meet as a staff every week on Tuesday, and last week I asked the staff, each person, to go around and give a word, one word, to describe a high and a low. One person said for the low, unsettled, but on the other hand, keen to get started. Another said off kilter, but excited. Scattered and curious, new possibilities. I felt like all those words kind of summed up where I'm at. This week, one of you told me about a sermon you remembered that Roger Payne gave many years ago. Most of us, he said, at one time or another in our lives are just a mess. I love the honesty of that, and I know that's been true for me at various points in my life. Not right now, maybe you'll be relieved to hear, but I get it. I get it, that feeling of kind of just being a mess. And I did have a moment this summer, I have to tell you, a moment. It was trepidation, I think. I was thinking about the year that is to come and wondering, how am I going to do it? How am I going to be a minister when a lot of my job is about being with people? And a lot of the only way I can be with you now is virtually. That's strange for me after being a minister all these years. How are we going to hang together and feel connected and have that warm feeling that you always speak about when you talk about First Parish in Lincoln and you tell me what it means to you? To be honest, I'm not quite sure. But then I realized that I don't have to know. I have great faith in you, in your creativity, in your willingness to try new things, and in your real kindness to one another, and to me and to the staff. I know that this community has been around a long, long time, and it's been through a lot of difficult things. It's very resilient. I have faith in that. And I may not know how to do it, but I do know how to show up, how to be present, and how to be faithful to you and to the spirit that the Quakers speak about as the divine light within each one of us, always there, leading us, guiding us. So I'm going to try to trust, not always easy for me. I'm going to trust in you and in the spirit and in the road we walk together. I don't know what it will be like. It will be rocky sometimes and maybe smooth at other times. And I don't know where it's going to take us. But I know how to show up and take that first step. And I know that you do too. That's why you're here. And that's a beginning. One of you told me this week that every time you go through a difficult time in your life, you read again The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. Why not? It's a story about someone setting out on an adventure. And I started reading it again last night. Bilbo Baggins, he didn't even really want to go on an adventure. They're such nasty, dirty things. But he went, and there were twists and turns and evil forces. But you told me, you know, it's a story about sticking together with your friends and getting through. What a great story that is for this time. So here we are, starting out on the year, on the adventure. We don't have to walk through this alone. What a blessing that is. What a blessing we have one another, and the road, and the Spirit. It's good to be with you again.
We come now to the time in our service that we set aside for silent and spoken prayers. To help us prepare, please join in the prayer hymn, Here We Have Gathered. After the hymn, we will have 1 minute of silence, followed by a time for spoken prayer.
Here we have gathered. have been heard. Sing now together this the heart's own song. Life has its battles, sorrows and regret, but in the shadows let us not forget. We who now gather know each other's pain. Kindness can heal us as we give again. Sing out in friendship this the heart's own song.
And let us hear the prayers of our community. Please hold in your hearts all those in the West who are experiencing smoke, fire, and fear of the unknown. May the rains come to dampen the fires out west, and may all beings breathe with ease. Gratitude for Rainbow Rocks, for Sarah as our ministerial intern, for students going back to class on Wednesday, remote or in person, for meaningful things that First Parish in Lincoln is engaged in. And we remember all the prayers of our hearts this morning, all that lies upon our hearts, spoken and unspoken.
Dear Lord, it's opening day for the church season in a remote kind of way, and a sort of kind of opening week for schools and colleges all around us. We could perhaps let out a teensy tentative cheer that some things are getting back to what we think of as normal. It remains, however, a strange and unsettled time, full of apprehension and insecurities. We worry about our loved ones, we worry about our community, we worry about our country, and we worry about our planet. As the days get shorter and the nights cooler, and as we begin to hunker down at home and prepare for the fall and winter, we think about those who have no home and about those who've been forced to leave their homes behind. We think about people on the west coast of this country facing down fires of unimaginable size. We think about downtown Boston and cities around the world where people with nowhere to live scramble each day to survive. And we think about refugees around the world, displaced and rootless and at the whims of circumstance. We are grateful to have the stability that we have, for the lives that we have been able to create for ourselves and our loved ones, and for the very roofs over our heads. Although we like to tell ourselves at times that we have earned such riches by dint of personal merit and hard work, we know in our hearts that they have been gifted to us in this great lottery of life. Help us, Lord, to remain grateful for all that we have been given, to be mindful of the suffering of others, and strengthened in our missions by the Spirit of life that dwells within us all. Amen. We appreciate your generosity so very much in this time. Please donate online at fpllincoln.org/donate.
Verses 4 through 10. Though rejected by mortals, yet like living stones, yourselves be built into a spiritual house, to be a holy priesthood, to offer spiritual in Scripture. See, in Zion, a stone put to shame. You are a chosen race, a royal that you may proclaim the mighty acts of the one who called you out of darkness into the marvelous light. Once you were not a people, God's people. Once you had not received. Here ends the reading. So unfortunately, my internet that was strong yesterday appears to not be strong today. Apologies in advance if I am coming in and out. I looked for a stronger corner of the house and apparently that failed as well. So we'll move forward in faith. New beginnings can be hard. Exciting, for sure, but frightening and difficult as well, especially when the world is such an uncertain place. I found myself staring at that blinking line, trying to write this sermon for much longer than I care to admit, reaching painfully for the right words to invoke at the start of this strange new church year. Where do I even begin? We gather once again to renew our commitment to this community, to express our pesky faith that there is something of value in this shared virtual space, even though it looks nothing like what we've known before. And throughout this year, you, First Parish, will build something. With every phone call and Zoom program, with every clothing drive and offering, with every prayer and every song, you are saying, this is my spiritual home. This is my spiritual family. And we are becoming something together. Even while we are physically apart from each other and from our church building, we are still in this together. We are the church, a living sanctuary. A moment ago, we heard a passage from a letter written to the earliest followers of Jesus, who were starting their lives and their communities over in a time of diaspora. The Jesus movement that had begun in Judea was already spreading throughout the Roman Empire, but that spread was exacerbated when the Romans invaded to put down a rebellion in Jerusalem. The Jewish people had been colonized and oppressed by other empires for centuries, and a movement had gathered to fight for liberation. The empire swooped in and destroyed the city, killing thousands, demolishing the temple. As Jesus had said decades earlier, according to the Gospels, not a stone was left on stone. To top it off, the Romans expelled the Jewish people from their homeland, scattering them throughout Asia Minor and beyond. Jews and Christians found themselves in a strange new world, isolated from their community and unable to worship together in their historic sacred space. And then they received a letter written by the Apostle Peter or someone writing in his name, with this message of encouragement. Draw near to the living stone and become a living sanctuary. The author says, in this time, renew your commitment to this spiritual community. What an audacious act of faith in these circumstances. What community possibly look like such a who are we anymore without our rituals, without our buildings? Yes, the author says, our temple was beautiful. Yes, the group of watching our world fall apart around us is real. But you are the church, not the building. You are the living stones, built into something more beautiful than you can begin to fathom just yet. Peter then hints at what this living sanctuary could look like. A living sanctuary is a space where the worth and dignity of every person is affirmed. Peter tells them, go back to the beginning, to the cornerstone or the foundation of your community, which in this context is Jesus. He reminds these early Christians who are suffering that they follow someone who suffered to the point of crucifixion. Yet this person who was rejected and oppressed by humans was precious to God. On the side of the oppressed, with those that society deems least important. To identify with Jesus, then, to be faithful to the vision of Jesus, means to do the same. Because if Jesus was precious to God, so are you, all who suffer today. A living sanctuary built on this sort of cornerstone values each person. It's a place that affirms the inherent worth and dignity of all, where you can bring your full self and know that you will be heard just as you are. It's also a space where each person's unique story and offering is a space that welcomes what each person has to give wherever they are on their journey. Peter calls this early Christian community priesthood. In the past, priests had been the only ones with access to the Holy of Holies, the room at the heart of the temple where God's Spirit was said to dwell. They were the only ones who could offer sacrifices or worship in this system. Because of that, they had all the power. They were mediators between the people and their God. But Peter says, in a living sanctuary, divine presence and the blessing of community is equally available, meaning all can offer what they have in the worship of God. The amount of money you make or your standing in the community does not determine your level of access. The work of the church is the work of the people, not of a select few who hold the keys to a private sacred space. Sacred space is wherever you are because you are stone. But when living stones come together to form a living sanctuary, they create a collective space that values solidarity and interdependence. When stones form a building, each one relies on the other. I think of what Martin Luther King Jr. wrote in his letter from Birmingham jail. Quote, "I am cognizant of the interrelatedness of all communities and states. I cannot sit idly by in Atlanta and not be concerned about what happens in Birmingham. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. As fellow members of a living sanctuary, I cannot be who I need to be if you are not able to be who you need to be. We are all part of one another. Whose worth and dignity are we being called to value as a living sanctuary in today's world? What systems do we need to address to make our affirmation of each person's dignity a reality in our church, in our town, in our nation? Who is being hindered from being who they need to be? And how do we remove what it is that hinders them? This is the work of a living sanctuary, and all of us have a role to play. A living sanctuary is also a sacred space where remembrance of the past and hope for the future meet. Earlier in the service, we heard a reading from the book of Joshua. This took place much earlier in the life of the Jewish people, during another sort of diaspora. The Israelites had been enslaved for generations when God came and liberated them and rescued them from the Egyptians by parting the Red Sea. Now, after 40 years of wandering in the wilderness, looking for a new place to call home, they come to another body of water, the Jordan River, just on the edge of the Promised Land. Once again, God parts the water for the nation to cross as a reminder of what God had done for them before and a promise to be with them in the future. Joshua tells the people to pick stones from the heart of the river and build a remembrance of this moment when their community was born. He looks to the future, to a time when children will look at what their ancestors built and say, what do these stones mean? What is all this for? What's the point? And why are we here? A living sanctuary tells stories of the past and builds on them, knowing that one day this moment too will be past. And what we are building now will have ripple effects into the future. Our ancestors echo through what we do together as spiritual community, through these stones that come together as part of a whole. And we too will one day echo through the gathered worship of our descendants. What will they hear in those echoes? Will they hear that we learned new things through this season? that we grew our living sanctuary wider than ever thought possible through our extravagant welcome, through our care for those who are hurting, and through our acts for justice in this turbulent moment. May it be so. Amen. At this time, we'll move into our closing hymn, We'll Build a Land.
Sisters and brothers, anointed of God, may there be peace, justice and love down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and those who and we'll give them gardens instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is won. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed of God, may then create peace. For justice shall flow down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where ancient cities, praising of devastation from God, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of rivers of gold. Come build where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace. For justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where the antthems of praises sound from the spheres, once filled and once sweet. Where the hymns of righteousness stand agreed. Oh, come build a land like river will see. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, and then create peace. For justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
Please join me now in the call to ministry. We go forth from the worship of God to be faithful to the vision of Jesus, to affirm each person's dignity, and to cherish the living earth.
And now for our benediction today, we'll have our virtual stone communion. So I invite you to, if you have your stone with you, lift it up and show everybody. And everyone's invited to scroll around and look at everybody's stones. Mine, of course, is in the other room where I was before the internet fell apart. Cool. Thank you. All right, if you have your stone with you, I invite you to hold on to it. If not, I invite you to place your hand on your heart and take a deep breath. Spirit, we give thanks for the wonder and beauty of this earth, represented by these stones in our hands and beneath our feet. We know this earth is alive, and we grieve all the ways we have not cherished it as we should. We know too that we are part of this web of life, that we are living stones, striving to live in right relation as parts of a whole. As we gather together at the start of this strange, uncomfortable, even painful new year, we place our stones on this virtual altar as a sign of our renewed commitment to one another. May we all bring our full selves to this space, and may we all be welcomed. May we offer whatever unique gifts and strengths we have, and may First Parish these difficult times, the weary and the rested, the lost, ever expanding to make room for more. Come together as the church, built on the rock of love and justice, that the gates of pandemic and racial injustice and wildfire and isolation against it.